Mark, you're supposed to be setting a good example by having people sit in the front. Yeah, but we want you to sit in the front so we can see you.
Yep.
Yeah, I know, it's loud. Hopefully that's better.
I can hear you.
All right. Scooch up to the front since it's a big room.
Thanks, Pete.
We won't bite. So welcome everybody. This is the 10 o'clock just-in-time learning and credentialing across roles and sectors session. It's great to see some friendly faces after a couple long years. My name is Kemi, Jona. I have the privilege of hosting this esteemed panel, and we've got two really inspiring leaders from two different sectors here with me. And really a chance to dig into what's happening in terms of the focus on learning in the flow of work, as we've all heard it, just-in-time learning, how credentialing, badging, and other initiatives like that can intersect and interact and support that kind of activity. And also just a quick check on what the realities today look like in the various sectors that are out there and how those intersect also with academic credentialing. I started this work back in 2017 with a great colleague, David Leeser from IBM, where we aligned some of IBM's badges to Northeastern's master's credentials. And since then, have had the privilege of being at IMS a few times talking about that work. And I'm really happy to have two colleagues here who we have the pleasure of working with closely to share their perspective. So hopefully this will be more interactive. We'll do some talking, but if you do want to ask a question, just raise your hand. This is, I guess, on the live stream, and so they'll bring a wireless mic over to you, and you can feel free to ask questions. Also, I don't think we can hear you from with the HVAC. So just to start, instead of doing a separate round of intros, I'll just ask each of the panelists here to kind of start by telling me a little bit about, telling us about their roles, and some of kind of the broad challenges that they're looking at from that perspective. So let me start with, to my immediate right, to your left, Dr. Julie DeLoia from Dignity Health Global Education, where she is the Chief Academic Officer. And then we'll move down to Alisa Jacobs, who's the Director of Global Learning and Development Center of Excellence at PwC. So Julie, to start, tell me a little bit about your role at DHGE and kind of what's the big landscape that you're seeing?
Well, welcome, everybody. I spent most of my professional career as a traditional academic, an academic dean, a dean, all around healthcare. I was an educator for physicians and residents and fellows, and a dean at nursing. Well, I'm not a nurse. I've done a lot of allied health, and a couple of years ago I moved over to Dignity Health Global Education, and the company was created from a large healthcare system and a online education provider to do workforce development in healthcare. And then a few months later, COVID hit. I would say it's the best of times, it's the worst of times. No matter what we do, it's needed. We can't do enough of it. We're in an environment where, talk about a chaotic work environment. 25% of the nursing workforce is left. But the picture's deeper than that. The rural areas have been devastated because their folks are being drawn in from, post-acute to acute. So you've got parents, grandparents. They're empty beds. There's nobody there. I'm talking to somebody in North Dakota last week. They have empty clinics because they have physicians but no nurses. It's this bidding war for nurses, but you're also seeing the great resignation. Well, a lot of the higher level C-suite folks are leaving the healthcare industry. They are exhausted, they're burnt out, they're attacked. So you've got challenges there of this incredible brain drain. I'm of the age that I could retire, and most of my friends are either leaving or are thinking about it. And so we have challenges everywhere. And then, the entry level, pulling people into the industry. We'll have systems that, I don't have any medical assistants, I don't have any CNAs. First question I ask them is, do you have an Amazon fulfillment center near you? Because they pay well. They pay more than any entry-level healthcare profession could. So these are some of the challenges. For decades, we already said, the nursing profession said you have to have a BSN. And now it's like, what can we get the LPNs to do that we always wanted the licensed RNs to do? So it's an incredibly dynamic environment, and the idea of digital credentials just-in-time education is absolutely forefront and needed.
Great.
Thanks, Julie. So Alisa Jacobs, as Kemi said, I am a Director of Learning and Development at PwC. We're a professional services firm offering audit or accounting, tax, and business advisory or consulting services to our clients. So we operate in 156 different countries with almost 300,000 people across the world. We look at a number of things through multiple lenses, one being that of our internal needs, and then also that of our clients that we serve across, a variety of sectors, including healthcare. So my specific work is on leading our network badge program and our internal credential strategy. So those are the credentials that are complementary to the CPA licenses or equivalents that many people have within our firm. And thinking about all the complementary credentials to those professional qualifications that are important for us as a business. Over the recent history, some of the challenges that we've been facing and trying to address have included things like digital transformation, again, both through those lenses of internally, what does that mean to us as a business? How do we leverage technology to do some of the more replicable processes that then free up our people to do things that only humans can do? And then how do we take that at scale to our clients? So it's that upskilling, reskilling transformation that we've been looking at for a number of years now. And then similar to what Julie shared, more recently, the Great Resignation and having enough people to do the work and meet the client needs that are coming at us fast and furious, given the dynamic environment that we find ourselves in.
Great. Now you can see why it's so cool to have these leaders from different sectors, so we can start looking for the differences and similarities. So with that kind of broad perspective, now that we all know a little bit more about what the world looks like from your perspectives, I'd love to maybe have you talk about maybe one or two things that you're working on right now that are trying to solve for these kinds of challenges that we just heard about, in particular with a focus around deploying just-in-time learning and credentialing strategies to try to meet the moment, as it were, and to try to move the business forward, move the talent strategies forward. So love to hear some things. Maybe you want to start, Alisa, and then what kind of results are you seeing from those efforts?
Yeah, thanks. So looking back at some of our efforts around digital transformation, it was a journey that we really wanted to bring the whole of our organization on, knowing that some people were going to need deeper skills than others and deeper understanding. So in terms of just-in-time interventions, one of the first badges that we offered was focused on digital acumen, and it spanned a number of topics. So we kind of went, an inch deep and maybe not quite a mile wide, but taking a more superficial approach to make sure that there was general awareness across our talent of what we were trying to accomplish as a firm, so that it took some of that intimidation that we often hear with some of the digital topics out of it. People could talk at least at a really high level about AI and its potential for us as an accounting firm, where initially, that connection wasn't obvious for a lot of our people. So by taking small interventions and making those available just in time, people could, devote 25, maybe a little bit less hours and feel like they were on board with what we were doing as an organization, while we then focus some of the deeper skills to, specific audiences that had a specific need for it.
I will. I've been told twice now, so I'm closer to the mic. I listen well. One project that we're just starting, I don't have any outcomes, but I'm extremely excited about it, is an idea of a virtual nurse. And that doesn't mean I can call a nurse and say, hey, I have sniffles. Is it COVID or is it a cold? But it's integrating a virtual person into the care team. So what does that look like? Well, it's somebody, I think about the new grads that are coming out. They have not had the clinical hours that other graduates have had. Hate to tell you. They're feeling less than confident, and they're getting bombarded by extremely complicated.
So don't go to a hospital right
No, do not go to a hospital now. And if you ever go to the ER, go in an ambulance. If you drive yourself, you will not be seen. But the idea is that you have this person, especially night shift. You think of rural areas, you just don't have that backup there. So the idea of getting this nurse that will be integrated into the whole care team is basically there to, talk somebody through. I did a trach tube, but it's been a while. I'm not quite sure. There's nobody experienced here to help me through it. They can do patient education. They can do admissions, discharge. So they're actually integrated into the care team as an extra person who might not physically be there. Obviously supported digitally, et cetera. So that's probably one of the projects I'm most excited about. The cool thing about it, healthcare, there's so many accrediting bodies. There's no accreditation yet for this, so we can define the standards of what it means what skills you need to be a virtual nurse, right? And so that's kind of a nice bonus to that one, right?
Yeah, I love that. One other thing, and then Alisa, we'll jump to you, so I'd love to hear your thoughts too. But Julie, one of the things you mentioned in an earlier conversation was this badging sequence of 28 badges. And I would love to hear you talk a little bit about that, because I know that obviously we've got a crowd here that is really into the digital badging, and so the sort of application in the real world, I think, would be really cool to hear. And how do the students like it, or the nurses like it, and that kind of thing. So
I'm sure most of you are familiar with MZ, but they do a lot of, they do what skills are employers looking for, et cetera. And there's obviously disconnect between sort of job advertisements and the language of accreditation, especially in nursing, right? You've got to go through all your essentials and make sure that language max up. So they have a tool called Skilliby. So you put all your syllabi into this software, and it spits out all of the skills they think they're getting from the curriculum. So we sort of cross-match that with the skills in job descriptions. And we did this with Mercy College in Iowa, so we looked at Iowa job descriptions, and then we started bucketing all these, and we created this, and then we went back to the faculty, and it was like, all right, this is coming out of the syllabi. I think this is how this maps up, and they worked around. So we created this pathway of progressive skills. And, it was an academic need. Curriculum is continuous. Most students don't recognize that. Actually, some faculty don't. So if you can show how student skills are...
You know this is on live stream, right?
I don't care.
Okay.
I'm no longer a dean. I can say these things now. It's the freedom. So the students actually have enjoyed seeing these skills that they're getting across multiple courses that lead to these meta badges. So we have like 28 micro badges leading to the 8 meta badges around, advocacy, communication, that sort of thing. And so the students have all said, oh, I can actually see my skills grow. Obviously, we would like to say, can you take this now and use it for jobs? But if you have a license, an RN, and you have a heartbeat, you're getting job offers every day. So the research has been a little compromised.
Yeah. Sounds great. Alisa, I know you've got a whole bunch of cool things happening, including some projects that we're doing together, but I would love to hear some of the things that you've got cooking, and how you see them playing out, and kind of feedback you're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. So we implemented a network badge program that went live in 2018. That was only in our US member firm, and that started to scale in 2020. I'll talk more about that later if you come to my next session.
Yeah, we don't want to take all the topics away.
But like I said, we're looking at complementary credentials too. So the things that are currently in our badge portfolio, it's a very small portfolio by design because those are the things that are most critical as priority skills for us at this time. Our people are very time poor, so that focus is really important to say these are the most critical things, and we want you to engage with them. There are some mini pathways within that as well, maybe not quite as elaborate as what Julie just described, but for our audience, that's working. We're also adding some additional internal certificates that may not have the same visibility as our badges, but again, getting to that level of priority business skills that may resonate within a particular business unit. We're looking collectively across all the credentials people have, including university degrees, in a more tangible way than we have before. We're working to blur the lines, so some of the work that we've done with Northeastern University out of our U.S. firm as well. So taking high potential, people who are maybe wouldn't have the same opportunities initially to get a certificate in data analytics and putting them through a real prescribed path to complete that. Looking ahead to some master's degrees as well. So really exciting collaborations going on. And one thing I should have mentioned before, what we're seeing, and it's somewhat, early days, there's a correlation, to be clear, it's no more than that right now. But when we look at turnover rates of those who are earning these additional credentials, they are less than what we're seeing more broadly across our business. So that's really encouraging to us. We want to be attractive, as a developer of talent, and be a place that people want to come to work. And so far, that looks really promising for us.
Terrific. Just a reminder to folks in the audience to get your questions ready, because we have one or two more rounds here, but then we do want to hear from you, and obviously you guys have a great resource here to pick the brains of these leaders. One thing, Alisa, that I did want to circle back on, that you said in our pre-meeting that I thought was really unique and a different perspective for those folks here who are online, who are thinking about launching or growing their digital badging, their credentialing program. You said earlier that we don't badge anything we don't want to be known for. And I thought that was a super interesting perspective, because often people deploy badges for a variety of reasons. Some of it is internal marketing, but this was the first time I'd heard a more externally focused perspective. Can you say a little bit more about how you're thinking about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the flip side to that I want to make sure is also really clear is that we aren't badging everything that we want to be known for. So one of the criteria for our badges is that they are applicable across all of our business units. So you won't see something specific to consulting, for example, in what we're doing. But that was part of a way of getting the whole of our organization behind us in launching this. We'd been watching the micro-credentialing space for a long time. But this was really about, is it good for our people? Is it good for our firm? Is it good for our clients? The answer to that, and the approach that we're taking is yes, because it's giving our people visibility to say, hey, I'm investing in my own development, my employer is investing in me, and hey, clients, I'm staying current in the stuff that we know matters to you too, so we can bring those capabilities to the work that we're doing to help you transform your business too. So that's been a really great way for us to stay super focused with what we're offering.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lisa. So we've got about 10 minutes left. One more round of questions from me, and then hopefully we can open it up for folks who have questions. One great thing about being out in the forefront is that you can help those behind you on the pathway benefit from all of the cuts and scrapes and other things that you get when you're out in front. And so wondering if you have any sort of lessons learned or insights that you might share from your own experiences for folks who might maybe just be getting started, or who are in the planning phases of this, or who want to take a small effort and see it grow. So any recommendations or lessons learned that you wanted to share with anyone?
I would...
Besides speaking next to the mic.
Yes, that's it. Communication and socializing your ideas. Do it early, do it often. Especially, I work in a highly regulated environment, to go to the accrediting bodies very early and say, this is what we're planning, please be part of the conversation, because you can get derailed so easily at the end, even though it's a fantastic idea. So communicate, build your stakeholders.
Terrific. Alisa?
Yeah, so in addition to making sure that we were starting with where our business wanted to go, I would say the other thing is starting small and focused was really important for us. Kind of that go slow to go fast idea. A great deal of work went into defining a framework for our badges, went into our governance model, went into our criteria for them. We leveraged so much good external thought leadership, things like the Lumina Foundations framework and other really valuable inputs into formulating what we wanted to do. But I think that was really critical for us because, for example, something I'm super proud of is the fact that the badges that we have in the area of business analytics and, the related things actually have qualified for college credit through Northeastern because the rigor of what we're doing at a corporate level stands up. And I know that isn't something that comes lightly, standards are important, rigor is important, and it's important to us too in a corporate face. So that's something I'm really proud of. But I think, doing that groundwork is really, really critical to make sure that then you can lead with that rigor in place from the very beginning.
Awesome. All right. If anyone has questions, please raise your hand and we will get the mic over to you. Looks like Kathleen is the first one up.
Okay.
Oh, we have some online questions too.
We're actually going to start with our virtual
Sorry.
questions.
Yep.
When do you think about learning experiences to address skills needs in your fields? What interests do you develop soft skills in particular? And do the experiences need to be embedded in your field, or would you send students to English courses, for example?
I'll jump in if that's okay.
Sure.
So we are looking really heavily at soft skills because we can have all the technology skills in the world, but if we don't have those human skills to complement them, then we are not taking the full potential of our firm to our clients. And we're also not bringing that experience to our people. So leadership is one that we've really been digging into quite a lot. What do the leadership models of the future need to be for us as we look to transform some of the ways that we've done things historically? And I think that is a really valuable piece to what we're doing.
Yeah, and thinking of the health profession, you think, soft skills are obviously huge, and communication, delivering bad news, conflict resolution, especially in hospitals now. We actually work with a company called Immersion, where students can practice these skills. We put them into scenarios, and if you've ever done it, starts off like, oh, it's kind of hokey, and then pretty soon your blood pressure is up, your heart rate's up, you're sweating a little bit. So get them to practice those soft skills, and you can use that with technology, which is great.
Terrific.
Oh, so the second half of that question too, I think, was around would we send people out externally?
Yeah.
We do a blend of things. So we try not to build anything that already exists well in the marketplace unless it's something that we're doing unique to PwC. So yes, we absolutely are looking at all those different models to do what we need to do.
And I think just to add to that, Alisa, I mean, the work that we've done together with PwC is the middle path, which is deeply integrating what's happening with your badges, with our academic programs, and sort of sitting down together with your experts and ours, weaving it together. So from the learner's perspective, you're not going in or going out, you're just on a seamless pathway. So
That's right.
I think that's another compelling option as well. All right, so we have another online question, and then?
Yes, one
Okay.
more. Can Alisa give an example of a digital badge that they award that is applicable across other skills?
Applicable across other skills. I'm trying to make sure I understand the question. So
Maybe across the firm?
okay. We have a couple. Digital acumen is one, as I mentioned earlier, as we look at digital transformation, was one that we've made available to the whole of our workforce. Similarly, we are scaling one on human-centered design for the whole of our workforce as well. And that's, digging into things like agile ways of working, data-driven storytelling, design thinking, which are those complementary skills that really bring some of our technical skills to life in the right way and encourage that right collaboration with our clients. So those are a couple that we're doing that are, very broadly applicable at this time. We also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this one, recently launched a curriculum on inclusive mindset. So furthering our inclusion, diversity, equity, purpose, and inclusion goals to make sure that we are laying the right foundation alongside a great number of other efforts on that space. It's not a one badge kind of thing to transform into where we want to go, but that's part of the journey for all of us. And that's available for adoption across the whole of our network so that then we, again, are kind of leading the right skills, behaviors, knowledge, mindset across all of our people.
Thanks. All right, Kathleen, go for it.
I think we're going to me next. So first, thank you to the employers for being here. It's often hard to get employers to come to these conferences, so we really appreciate this. Yeah. My question is really around eliminating degree requirements and how you might use badging or micro-credentialing as a signal for somebody who doesn't have a degree for the kind of role that either of you might have that normally would require a degree. Thank you.
Well, I'm in a bit of a box. Some things have to have degrees, but the scope of practice is shifting, and especially, rural, senior care, et cetera. So there's space there where you can say, take an LPN and you want that person to work in this certain space, we can give them a credential for certain skills. I mean, I think there's great opportunity there. But much of my world is very regulated.
And we're also in a regulated environment. What we find is that even if people come into the firm without a degree, and many are, we are relaxing requirements where we can and where we think it makes sense. And every one of our member firms may have a slightly different approach to that, so it's hard for me to speak to all the approaches at present. But what we find is the CPA license is still a requirement for a number of our people, and in the course of earning it, you basically are pretty close to your master's degree, if not there. So what we're trying to do is to reach out and bring more people along that journey that might not have had that opportunity previously, while we look and see what's kind of shifting in the background and see if any of those, changes come alongside that mean we don't have to have the equivalent of degree or a degree where we have in the past.
Actually, I'd also add, in the non-clinical arena, there's also tremendous space as you see people being elevated. A nurse might now be running a whole system of all nurses. Like, do you need an MBA? Probably not, but you probably need some financial acumen and HR, human capital management, et cetera. We can give folks that in a shorter format and give them a credential with underpinning rigor.
Thank you all for your participation today. I had a question about the process of creating micro-credentials. Do you feel that it has made the programs better in some way? Process of formulating the credentials. Has it made your education program somewhat better?
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely say yes, and certainly that RN to BSN, I think that was very illuminating for both faculty and students, but even, working with academic partners to say, we're going to, have these badges. This is how they got those badges. Can we roll those into something bigger, stackable credentials as people's job duties change? And I think the workforce is accepting of that. And employers and employees, whether higher ed will acknowledge those and give academic credit, that's a work in progress.
Yeah, I would say absolutely we're seeing some great benefits to what we're doing with micro-credentialing in terms of consistency across our approach. We have wonderful learning and development organizations. I'm totally biased, but I'm just going to say we do, across the whole of our network. But what the micro-credentials and our framework have given us is consistency in how we do these specifically. So that's led to, like I said, the university credit in some cases. it's also given us, you know, the way to continue this forward in a way that we know is going to bring a great deal of rigor. It gives us the opportunity to push back when we're asked, well, can't they do this faster? Can't they learn this faster? And we remind them, you know, it takes time to learn something, to develop a skill, to demonstrate the skill so that we can verify it. And so I think it's been a really good framework for us, yeah.
Terrific. All right. I know we're just about out of time. Oh, Michelle's got something to say. All right.
This isn't a question so much as a request. I heard you say that you had done data that showed that the folks getting these credentials were being retained at a higher rate. And we've run into problems, and this is not just where I am currently, but before too, with employers, especially smaller size employers, who are reluctant to give credentials because they think they're going to lose their employees. So I ask that you get that data and that information out into the world and really spread it.
Absolutely, because we had the same concern going into it. Are we going to make our people too attractive?
Right, especially now, right?
Right,
and
right.
especially in healthcare.
And,
Yeah.
you know, we acknowledge not everybody's going to stay at PwC for the whole of their career. Often people come for a few years to get experience and move on to a client or, you know, another organization. So yes, that's something we want to make sure that is fully buttoned up before we shout it from the rooftops. But like I said, initial analysis looks good.
We have some data like 3 to 6 months out from nurse leadership, and we ask, you know, since this degree, did you get a new job? Did you get a promotion? The number one thing is I feel more confident in my job. I'm more satisfied in my job. We've had a few folks that left, but the vast majority, it's about them feeling more comfortable and confident and satisfied, and those are people who are going to stay longer.
Exactly. Great question.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Michelle. All right, another one right behind there. We're going to sneak a few more in. Now we've got some momentum.
Thank you. I just have a quick question to build on that. Lisa, I really loved this holistic approach, your strategic approach to creating the badging across, you know, all of the different positions. And I'm wondering, with relationship to retention, if that was an intention to allow people to move around in the company in a meaningful way, because that seems to be, you know, we were just talking to the Lucian folks earlier in the session before, and they were talking about how important it is to have learning opportunities for retention because it allows you to move within the company. Was that part of the strategic direction that?
Absolutely.
Is it intentional?
Yeah, we knew, you know, historically people have followed a pretty linear path within our firm, but we know that that's shifted over time and people like to pivot into new things, and we see that everywhere, not just to us, right? And so it was known that we would help people develop new things, try on new roles, and chart their own course, you know, as fits them best, really. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think also the takeaway is that, you know, badges aren't one size fits all, or those credentials are not one size fits all, and there are a variety of reasons why you might be deploying them, right? Sort of firm-wide inclusion, as you were talking about, versus very narrow skill set. So I think it is important. All right, so I think we should probably wrap it up and thank our two panelists for terrific insights. You know, they'll be around. Alisa's got another panel right after this, I think, and so encore presentation from her, and we'll be around to answer any questions you have. So thank you very much.